eyes wide open. In the heart of Appalachia, legends whisper of unseen spirits and shadowy figures. Don't forget to subscribe as we step deep into the misty woods to uncover what many refuse to talk about. Are they lost or something much darker? Let's take a look.
Every town along the Appalachian ridges has its own ghost, but the people near Maple Hollow say there still walks. They call her the Woman in the Woods, and she's the reason nobody goes past the old creek after dark. 50 years ago, a young woman named Lila May lived alone in a small cabin near the tree line. Folks said she was kind but strange, collected bones, hung mirrors from trees, and talked to the woods like they could talk back. One winter, a group of hunters passed her cabin. The next morning, the snow was red, and Lila May was gone. All they found were bare footprints in the snow leading deep into the forest barefoot, and not a single track coming back. Hunters' dogs refused to cross the water. Travelers saw a woman standing between the trees, long hair hanging like wet moss, her head tilted too far to one side. Then came the mirrors. Every cabin in the hollow started finding small mirrors hanging from branches, catching the moonlight. When someone took one down, they said they could see her face behind the reflection, mouth open, eyes black. They say if you whisper Lila May 3 times, you'll hear her answer not with words, but with the sound of creaking wood, like a neck twisting in the dark. They brought cameras, flashlights, the usual. Only one came back. He said they found the old cabin, nothing inside but bones and mirrors. Then the lights went out. He heard her humming low, almost gentle, right behind him. The last thing he saw was his own reflection, smiling when he wasn't. Some say her spirit still guards that stretch of woods, collecting souls that wander too close to the creek. So if you ever see mirrors glinting between the trees, or hear a woman humming when no one's around, don't look, don't say her name, and whatever you do, don't follow the footprints.
What to do if you are unfortunate enough to encounter something in the mountains that you shouldn't. This can happen in the daytime and it can happen at nighttime. Something I say repeatedly is if you feel something off, if you see something off, if you hear something off, you need to go home. Now, why do I say this? Are these things really going to stop at your front door and knock for entry? Some people believe they will, but that's not necessarily why I'm telling you that. Home, you are going to have an easier time ignoring things. You're going to be able to close your doors, lock them, have peace of mind there, close your curtains, close your blinds, and just occupy yourself with something else. You don't really have that luxury while you're walking out in the middle of the woods. Now, if you're already being chased, I don't know, maybe you'll get lucky like me and they'll stop at the door, but they might not always. That brings me to another point that I'm just going to slip in here. Let's say you drive to a hiking spot and so you felt something weird in the woods and you're back to your car. Don't speed away in your car. They're going to take that as a challenge. It's the same thing as you running on foot. That car frame's not going to stop them. So the answer to this question, does being in your house even matter? Like surely 1 centimeter of glass will keep me safe? Yes and no. It's going to make you feel better and in turn make you more boring. But I mean, if it's already super interested in you and has its sights set, no, it's not going to help.
So, my husband and I currently live with his grandparents, who are 92 and 95, and they both have dementia. We are living with them to take care of them and to keep them in their home, hopefully until the very end. They have been married for 72 years. And they built this house in 1956. No one else has ever lived in this house. No one has died in it. Nothing has happened traumatic, just regular life. But over the last year and a half, we have started having more and more odd things happen. A few weeks ago, I was here with the grandparents alone. It was just me and them. No radio was on, no television was on. I was sitting at my makeup table doing my makeup, getting ready to go to work, and I had my back to the door. Well, out of nowhere, I heard my oldest daughter say, "Mom." And then a second later, she went, "Mom." And then just another second later, she said, "Mom." and I whipped around to see what was there. I knew it couldn't be my daughter because she lives an hour and a half away from me and works at a hospital. And she was on shift at the time that this happened. So nothing was there. And when I calmed down, I called my daughter to make sure that she was okay, that she wasn't sick or in trouble, and she was fine. She was at work at the hospital. I mean, there was nothing going on. So I don't like this because in my experience, anything that pretends to be something else has nothing good going on. Since that time, another person here, the nurse who takes care of the grandparents while we work, also heard someone say her name. She heard a man. She did not recognize his voice, and he was whispering her name from all over the house. There have been so many unexplained things happening here.
Now I have another uncle on my mom's side, her brother. I don't want to go into too much detail about the last time that I had saw him. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good situation when he came over to my family's house. I was younger. I was like 16. I didn't see him for quite some time. Didn't have a really good experience with him the last time I saw him. Some crazy things were said. Okay. I just didn't have a very good mindset when it came to that uncle. Time later, hadn't talked to him, whatever. A long time later, he ended up getting in the hospital. He was on life support. And I watched him get taken off life support with my mom, and he was in hospice care. Couldn't see him in hospice. I don't know. I felt uncomfortable with that. But anyways, he passed away. And then one night I had this dream. It's always in my dreams. So one night I had this dream where I was in my childhood home and I was talking to my mom. We were in the kitchen. How my childhood home was, like kitchen was right here. There's this hallway and there's like this half bath in the hallway and like the whole rest of the house. I remember like talking to my mom, and then I see my uncle peer around the corner. I was like, Mom, like I was scared. Like my uncle kind of scared me. And so I was just like, Mom, he's right there. And my mom just talking away in my dream, like not paying attention. I'm like, Mom. And then she's not saying anything. And he goes like this and disappears into the bathroom. And I was like, oh, Mom. I'm like freaking out. So I'm like, Mom. And so then I'm like still trying to get her attention. And then all of a sudden he pops up in front of me. And I'm not kidding you. This is where I don't understand this dream. It's very strange to me, but he was just not normal. It was like a skeleton in a way, but also like very mean and bad energy. Pops up in front of my face, voice changes, and said, I told you to stop talking. Like, don't tell her. He like went through my body. At that moment, I woke up and I had from my whole body, from head to toes, I had this weird electrical feeling go through me. I have never once lost my voice in my life. I was stuck open, so I had sleep paralysis at this point. He was above me, floating above me, and I couldn't scream. I had tears streaming down my face. I was frozen. I just kept saying in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to tell her. Just go away. I'm sorry. Just like leave me alone. Don't hurt me, blah, blah, blah. And he just stayed there for a while, just staring at me. And I was just, the whole time my mouth was open and I was just going, like trying to scream. Like it was crazy. After I kept like pleading in my brain, like, please, like, let me go. He let me go. And then I shot up and then I was like terrified. That was another experience, but I have a weirder experience with that uncle. When I was driving to California, crazy things happened in the car when my mom and I were talking about him, like absolutely insane, like made me sick to my stomach, but like also was very comforting. It made me feel validated and being like, ghosts visit me. My family, when they pass away, they visit me. So, yeah.
Like, all I hear about is don't whistle at night. But I was raised with none of that. I didn't know what any of that was because I wasn't taught that. I wasn't taught not to whistle at night. I wasn't taught anything like that. I was raised in a very strictly religious, sheltered upbringing is what I had. I experienced, for example, mimics before I even knew what they were. Ironically enough, I also was very interested in the paranormal my entire life. I was always interested in the paranormal and always curious. and all the ghost books and things like that, I never once read about mimics, or if I didn't connect the two, or I forgot about it, and I had no idea what they were. But I was there with a friend, and we had come back from, it was like June, so it was really hot out. We had come back in the afternoon to just like rest and reset, so I went and got a shower. While I was in the shower, my friend, there was a separate door that separates the shower area from like the bathroom area. She was standing at the other side of the door and called my name while I was in the shower. She kept hollering for me on the other side of the door. She kept saying my name. I'm like, what? I would shut off the thing. She would walk away. I would be like, okay, turn the shower back on. I'm showering. And she would, a few minutes later, come back and be like, Melanie. I said, what? This happened at least 5 or 6 times that I can recall. And it got on my nerves and I lost my temper a bit. By the time I was out of the shower, I literally cut my shower short because of that. I wrapped up in a towel, wrapped my hair up, and I walked out, and she was laying on the bed on her stomach with headphones on, texting with her sister exactly the way I left her. When I went into the bathroom, I said, what? She went, and I went, what do you want? She's like, what do you mean? I said, what do you want? What do you keep hollering my name for? She's like, I'm not hollering your name. I was like, yes, you were standing on the other side of the door hollering my name like a million times. And she's like, I have been on this bed texting with my sister the entire time with headphones in. She's like, I have not moved since you went in there. And I was like, you sure you were not, like, just tell me. She's like, I've been here the whole time. The other one was whenever I was babysitting. It was a last minute emergency babysitting. The woman just had to leave the house real quick. There was a newborn in the crib, in the bed. She's like, I'll be back in like 3 hours tops. Baby's not a newborn. I think it was like a few months old, because she was like, baby's gonna sleep the whole time. You don't have to worry about anything. You just need to be here in case something happens. But she's like, nothing's gonna happen. So just like hang out. I was like, okay. So I'm sitting on the couch. I don't know if I was watching TV or reading or what. And I was just sitting on the couch. I don't know if I was watching TV or what. It was a neighbor of a friend of mine that asked me to do this. And my friend who lived next door, kind of catty-cornered from this person's house, she just hollered for me from, I thought it came from in the bedroom where the baby was at first. And then I heard her holler for me downstairs. And I looked outside and her car wasn't even there. And you're like, huh. That happened several times. My name being called. It's never ending. It's just like sitting with my back turned to my bedroom door, and the bedroom door was closed, and someone was just standing behind me. Nobody else was home and the doors were locked, and I was by myself, and my cat was asleep on the bed, and someone was just stood behind me, and went, I can't whistle on demand that well, but it was like that, clear as can be, really loud, and so loud that the cat on the bed woke up. No idea what it was. Because the cat woke up, I knew I wasn't imagining things. It wasn't in my head. And the cat was kind of like when they're startled awake. That's how it reacted. And so naturally, I turn around and I open the door to my bedroom. Nobody's there. And I go out and nobody's there. I check the front door. The front door's locked. I check the basement. The basement's locked. So I'm like, okay, nobody was outside. I went outside and I was like, is someone like in the yard, like screwing with me? Because maybe they saw I was home alone and was trying to mess with me. Nothing. Very normal. Very normal. At least the way I was raised. Or where I was raised. Whatever way you want to spin it. But I don't know if it was Appalachia or if it was just normal haunting stuff. But it was normal for me.
I was just asleep on my couch, and I had this dream. In this dream, Luke was gone. It was like I was here, it's like I was here, I was awake, I knew what I was doing. That's the only way I know how to describe it. But Luke was gone, and I knew he was gone. Well, I hear this noise in my dream. And then I could hear drawers opening, I could hear stuff, but I wasn't seeing anything. Like in my dream, I was not seeing anything. And so I was like, oh my gosh, Luke's home. So I was trying to wake up, but my eyes were not open. Like, I was sitting there fighting my eyes. Like, this is as far as I could open them in my dream, and for like 2 seconds, if that. So I couldn't really see anything. And the only way I can get out of that state, because it happens to me a lot in this house, is to pray. You say the Lord's Prayer, and then at the end I will say, if anything that is not of light, love, and goodness is in this house, you are not welcome, and you need to leave in Jesus' name. And I say it firm just like that, and as soon as I say that, I open my eyes and I'm fine. Someone explain that to me. Why it do that? Why it do that? I don't like that. I don't like that. Freaks me out. And I've had a couple friends stay the night here that the same thing happened to them. Like, they had sleep paralysis.
Born and raised in the mountains of Appalachia. I have a lot of stories. I figured you guys would like to hear them. But I remembered one the other day. My family, my mom's family, has a family cemetery that is up on Roan Mountain, okay? And it's about a 45-minute drive, 30-minute to 45-minute drive from where I am. And this little family cemetery is extremely old. You go up it's not even a road. It's like a hill that you drive your car up, and it's just a hill. There's no road there. But you go up to the top, and then you have this little fenced-in gated cemetery. And down at the bottom, now Roan Mountain is my family's all we always had connections up there. My mom's grandmother's family's from up there, and my brother worked up there as a park ranger in the state park up there, which, I'm sure he's got some stories that would be much more exciting than mine. But my mom and my grandmother and I was little. I was maybe 10 or 11, I would guess. Maybe a little bit older. I want to say I was like 10 or 11. We were standing up there, and I was kind of into ghost stories at the time. I was kind of like, I'd like to hear them. And this grandmother never told any ghost stories. Now, my other grandmother could tell a ghost story that would scare your socks off. But this grandmother, she didn't. Grandma Van Hus didn't say. She never told stories that would scare you much. So we're standing up here, and my mom's putting flowers on the grave and cleaning up the graves and everything. And my great grandmother, and we hear the wedding march. Okay, the wedding march. What is the one that's dun 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 dun, but it was like on a pipe organ, the really creepy sounding pipe organ, the really terrifying sound that you hear on like horror movies. It was like that, but it was so loud. It was like as if you had the loudest speakers, like if you went to a concert outside and set up the speakers. That's what it sounded like. Okay, now here's the thing: there's only one place down in this area that could blast out music like that, and that's the amphitheater right below where we were, and it was only like a quarter of a mile. I mean, literally down at the bottom of the hill from the cemetery, kind of across the road, you have the amphitheater. So my mom said, oh, somebody's getting married down at the amphitheater. We immediately leave because it creeped us all out. There's nobody at the amphitheater. And Mom's like, well, they have to be at the church. My mom's a very logical Aquarian thinker, okay? She said, let's go, let's go check. She knew of 2 other churches. There is nobody on this mountain, okay? And my grandmother, being the sweet sweetest little old lady, she was sitting in the front seat, and just, you could barely see her little head over the top of the seat. And she said, well, it could be that girl, that woman they tar and feathered back years ago. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, she said she had moved up here. Said she was real pretty, and she said she was engaged to be married, and but she said she was getting the attention of all the men in the area, and the wives and the girlfriends were not having it. So they decided that they were going to tar and feather her to humiliate her. Now this is why we probably have a lot of activity in Appalachia, because we do this, okay? So anyway, the locals decide they're going to tar and feather her. And it went too far. And they unalived her by accident. So they made a pact that no one would tell, ever. They would take this to their grave with them. They had the help of one man in town. He helped them drive the vehicle to dispose of her, body. And her fiance, didn't know what happened to her. She was just gone. And so, allegedly, she haunts that area looking for her long-lost fiance. And people will hear the wedding march when she's nearby. That scared the socks off me. That grandmother actually, she kind of took it up a notch for me, because I never expected that kind of story. But it scared me because of the situation. We're hearing the sound, hearing this music, and we couldn't figure out the source of it. But the way that the word got out about what happened to her, this is funny. One of the women, she got really, really sick, and she was just sure she was on death's door. She just knew she only had like a day, less than a day to live. And so she told the story about what they did to clear her conscience, and she didn't unalive. So, the word got out. But I've always thought that was such a sad story. But I'm convinced that we witnessed something that it was a bizarre situation. I know the logical thinkers are going to go, oh, it could have been this, it could have been that. We went through and logically tried to find every possible scenario. And my mom even knew of churches I didn't know of up here. We went all over the place. I mean, I could tell my mom was like, I'm going to explain this. I'm going to figure this out. You'd have to understand the tone of the music. It was so loud. It was being played on obvious speakers. I mean, it was very, very loud. And we were up in this remote little, on top of this hill, and I know that sound travels differently, when you're up high and things like that, and with the trees and all that in the Appalachian Mountains, but it was very clearly being played on loudspeakers. And we all three stopped. We were like, oh, and it was like, it was almost like it wanted to get our attention. There was no other sound. So if it had been somebody getting married, I would think that if you have the music that loud, you would hear the crowd. You would hear somebody, clapping. You see the bride, something. And there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. It was really, really strange. That one left the hair on my arm standing up when I was a kid. And that one scared me even, like, as an adult, if I thought about it too much.
Okay, I'm going to make another paranormal post here. I just woke up. I had a horrible night last night. I moved into this house knowing that there was a death in this house. I made my peace with it. I don't know much about it. I only know that there was a husband and wife couple that had this house built back in like the 70s, and he was like the chief of police back then. He was like pretty well-known guy, and he was cheating on his wife, I guess. And I get this information from my neighbor who's like almost 100 years old, and she's been in this area a long time. We know that the wife committed suicide in this house. I don't know where in the house she committed suicide. I do know her name, but I really don't know much else about her. After I moved in, I did find some relics like around the property, and I did try reaching out to the previous homeowner who's like now in his like late 80s. But he never responded. But I will tell you that since I've been here in this house, I know that there's something here. I can feel it. It originates from this closet. This is my bathroom, and my bed is right over there. And I frequently go through these like periods of time where this like entity is in my house and in my room, in my bathroom, in this closet. Like, I know it's coming from here. I try to ignore it, not think about it. It doesn't really bother me, but last night it bothered me. It woke me up. I felt it in the bathroom. I've never like fully seen it with my eyes, but other people have. And so last night I felt a couple times I have felt like it's by my bed. And, at one point in time, like this was like maybe last year or something, I felt pressure on my bed, on my leg, like like as if something like put its hand there. I felt it, and I woke up and I sensed that it was by my bed. And that same night I woke up and I had a scratch from here to here that morning when I woke up. It was like dead straight scratch on my neck. And I was like, that's weird, because like I sleep very curled up, and I was like, I don't know how I would have been able to do that unless I was in this position to like make a scratch like that. I don't know. It was very bizarre. I have a friend who is really clairvoyant. I don't know what else to do or who else to reach out to. She came over and she told me that she couldn't even do it in the room that we were going to do it in, because the entity or whatever was in that room, and she described it as a tall man. She described it as a tall man that was like a shadow figure, and he was in the room downstairs and he wouldn't leave. She also kind of went around my house. She also thinks that its presence is heavier upstairs. I had another girl come over here for a separate reason. She's actually a friend of the family's. I didn't know that she was like clairvoyant or like had any kind of stuff like that. I honestly had no idea, but she came to my house, came into this bathroom, and she was like, what the f-? She's like, something is in your closet. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, it literally just poked its head out like that. Like she was there. She's like, there's something in there. And I was like, I know. Like, what do you mean? Like, you see it, you know? Because I know, but I never told her that. And she was like, yeah, and it's tall, and it's like poking its head out like that. She thought it was a woman though at first. And I was like, well, somebody else already came and did a whole thing and said it was a man. And so then I'm like, really like, oh my God, I'm not the only one. Okay, somebody else sees it. And she's like, oh yeah, it's definitely like in your closet. And so then I called my other friend back and I was like, can you please come back to my house? Because this was like now a year later. And I was like, can you do another cleansing? I think it's back. It's like making its presence known. So she said, okay, I'm going to come back to do a cleansing, but I'm going to bring somebody else who is even better at this than me. And they came around and went through the whole house room by room. And this other lady said that she also felt the presence. She felt it was in this closet too. She also said that she felt its presence in every single room in this house except for my son's rooms. My son's father died in 2013. They were very young when he died, and I've always been told and felt like his presence is like protective over them. They have a lot of like memorabilia of him in their rooms and stuff. And the lady said that when she went into those 2 rooms, that was like the only 2 rooms where she didn't feel the presence at all. And the boys have told me that they've never felt or seen anything or heard anything. Okay, that was like last year, I think this happened. So now my son, who's 16 now, told me, and he knows the stories of what I've seen and what the other girls have seen. He had never seen it, but he told me one night, like months ago, that the thing came into his room. He said that the door opened at like 5 a.m. to his room, and he woke up and looked over, and the tall shadow figure was in the door. And then it left, and he woke up and he was like, oh my God, like I finally saw it. It was in my room. So all this to say, I don't know what to do. Like my friend that came over, she told me to put a white candle on this little thing here. And so we did that for 3 days. It burned all the way down. She did some stuff, and then I didn't feel the presence for like 6 months. I never felt it, but now it's back again. I feel like every few months it comes back. I feel it. I don't know. The energy is like really negative. I don't know. Okay, so when I'm sitting on my bed right here, this is the bathroom. So I sleep on this side, and last night I felt like it was right here, and I woke up, my heart was racing, and then I kind of like fixated on the door. It was open. It was all dark back there. And I don't know, I just felt like it was in here. I turned on the lights and turned on the TV and fell asleep with everything on because I was all freaked out. But I don't know.
In Appalachia, if you see it, no you didn't. And if you hear it, no you didn't. So therefore, I'm going to tell the story about something that recently happened to my friend. So my friend, my dear, dear friend, was walking around on a nature trail recently with her husband, and there were so many animals, and they were just having a great time, and just, you know, looking at the scenery, looking at the wildlife, looking at the plants, all of that. So the whole time, my friend was kind of hearing things off in the distance, and sometimes right behind them in the woods. Some of these noises sounded animal-like, but not like any animal that they've ever heard. And some of them sounded like people. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some kids, but my friend and her husband could see the kids. Like they had eyes on them. And like these noises weren't like children playing noises. These noises were like weird, like I can't even describe it. Sometimes they would hear, "Hey," but like it didn't quite sound human. But they were just like ignoring it because, you know, if you hear it, no, you didn't. So they were walking around and it seemed to like follow them every part of the park that they went to. So like they went way over to the water's edge of this quarry, and right behind them in the woods, they heard, "Hey," and just, you know, kind of ignored it. And so they were walking back down. They were walking completely to the other side of the park where there was this abandoned shed, and they heard to their left in the woods over on that side the same voice, but they couldn't tell what it said. And right around that time, they started hearing a siren going off, but not like an ambulance. Like it sounded like almost like a tornado siren, except it wasn't a tornado siren. Now, obviously, that could have just been something mundane, like something not spiritual at all whatsoever. But it was just really creepy that the whole time she had been hearing weird noises and getting the feeling that they were being watched and followed. And right when they happened to walk up to this creepy abandoned shed, all of a sudden they were hearing a siren out of nowhere. And the funny thing is, the siren stopped when they left. Like, when they walked away from the shed.
Shadow people, shadow parasites, demons. These are dark entities that you encounter in the lower astral realm. My name is Kay, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing my personal experiences with these dark entities. Ever since I could remember, the shadow people have been visiting me. I was just a little tiny girl, and I was terrified to go to bed at night because I was afraid of the shadow people coming and visiting me. I'd be laying in bed and all of a sudden I'd get paralyzed, and this dark energy, this dark feeling would just come in around me, and I would have a shadow person come and attack me. Now, the shadow people are just like an outline of a person, except only a shadow. You can't see any eyes or facial features or anything like that. Some people do report seeing eyes, red glowing eyes, but I have personally not seen that. I just see shadow people that are just dark. If you've ever seen the movie Ghost, they show these demons coming out of hell and making awful noises. They're just a shadow grabbing people and bringing them down to hell. That's what it's like. It is the most disturbing, horrific experience to see these dark entities. Like truly horrifying, something out of a horror, as if you're in a horror movie, because it's real life. It's really happening. The shadow people would come and they would scratch me and bite me and grab me, and I could literally feel it. I could feel something attacking me, like clawing my skin and biting me, as if they were biting my physical body and not my astral body. It is so disturbing. It's beyond, it's awful. And they would make noises sometimes. Recently, a few months back, I was paralyzed in bed and I sensed this presence coming into my room. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was a shadow person because of that dark, energetic feeling. And it got really close and it whispered in my ear, "I love you, I love you, I love you," in the most terrifying, demonic voice I have ever heard. And I was like, "Oh no, get away from me," like, oh. So sometimes they do talk, but I haven't heard that often. Usually they just physically attack me. Now, shadow parasites. These are like shadow people, except they look like a spider. They have like this round body with arms going out all these different directions, and they come in various shapes and sizes, but it's something similar to a shadow of a spider. The times that I've seen these is when I got older, and I would travel through a portal, a wormhole, whatever you want to call it, or I'd just be dropped in. And I've always ended up in this big flat field. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's at or anything. It's just like this big open field with grass growing. It's like this dark yellow hue color, like an old movie or something like that. That's what it reminds me of. But the moment that I end up there, there's this huge shadow parasite that immediately sees me and just like pounces at me, like goes to attack me. And I have to get out of there really quick.
I definitely think that when I tell people this one, they don't believe me. I'm still not even sure what happened, to be honest, but all I know is it was a really freaky experience. But, so me and two of my close friends decided to go do a road trip. We went all the way down to southern Florida tip, all the way back up. The Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina are like my favorite mountains. I love them. They're like home to me. And I wanted to end the trip there and take us to a camp place. It's like primitive camping down this road where there's tons of different spots leading up to this spot called Wiseman's View. And so we pop up there, find one of the spots. You want to claim your sites because they're free for all, and it gets super popular. Crowded. Yeah, sorry, I get nervous and I stumble. But anyways. And we set up site, mark our spot, we go do some hiking. This is what I do every single time. Always mark your spot. And everyone does this, and you can come back to your spot after you're done. And so we go hiking and stuff. And when we're on the way back, it's dark at this point. Yeah, it's dark at this point. I start to get a vision, a very clear, vivid vision of this thing. Like, because the campsite, one side's like towards the road, and the other side, the half of it just kind of dips down into the woods. And I just had a vision of this thing crawling out from the woods and up into our site where our tent was. And I was just instantly telling myself, like, Marissa, you're creeping yourself out. You're just being paranoid. Like, chill out. So I did. I didn't say anything to my friends. I didn't want to spook them out. So yeah. We get to the site, I immediately want to start a fire. I love fires so much, and we gotta make dinner, and I'm starting to work on it. It's not working out. I can't get the fire started. I feel nervous. I feel like I'm being watched. I feel just really uncomfortable, but I'm trying to stay strong, get the fire started. I've camped here so many times. I've camped in this exact spot before. No issues. So I'm just like, it's gonna be okay. But then all of a sudden, my friend goes, hey, where's the tent? And I'm like, what do you mean, where's the tent? And she's like, the tent's not here. Mind you, we didn't put it up. We had a tarp laid down and then just placed the tent bag there. So someone could have came and taken it while we were gone. What makes this story creepy is the fact that I had a vision of something crawling up and taking it. And then we get there and realize our tent is gone. Well, I didn't necessarily have a vision that it took our tent, but it was crawling up towards it in my vision. And this was right before we got there. And so, yeah. And I felt like I was being watched. And once my friend was like, it's gone, we all just got really silent. And I just looked at them and very calmly, I was like, I think we should pack up and get in the car. And they agreed. And we were just very silent, very efficient. We packed everything up, threw it into the car, and just got into the car and started to drive away as quickly and smoothly as we could, because we decided that staying just didn't feel right, and we just want to get out of there. Like, the space we were supposed to sleep was taken, so the idea of sleeping in our car instead just sounded not very good. I don't know. So yeah, we left, and as we get away and like we're all talking, the girls are like, yeah, like when we got to the site, we felt uncomfortable. We felt like we were being watched. Like, we just didn't feel good. And then once one of our friends was like, hey guys, like our tent is gone. Like, we had already felt uncomfortable. It felt like we were being watched. And that was just like the tipping point of being like, okay, like we need to get the here. And so yeah, we got our stuff out. We left. Unfortunately, I have not been able to camp in those woods ever since, even though I've camped there so many times. But all I know is that it didn't feel good. And it could have been a person someone could have just stole our tent, but the fact that I had a very detailed vision of something crawling into our site in the same space where our tent was, and then to show up and realize it was gone, and before even knowing it was gone, just feeling watched and feeling uncomfortable, yeah, just freaks me out a little bit. I definitely think that if I go camping there again, I will want a big group of people, because for some reason numbers feel better, safer, but yeah.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Today I want to talk about something that happened to me as a kid that was very paranormal, and I still do not understand why it happened or what it was. So this story takes place in Northwest Georgia, where I've lived most of my life. So I was home by myself at the time, and it was getting dark. I was in my room crafting. I think I was actually making a wind chime out of some seashells that I had. Still pretty proud of it. I loved it. Anyways, so I'm there by myself, and where we live is very secluded. The driveway is really long, and you can hear someone come up to the house, up the driveway. And the way that the driveway is, you'd have to turn the car around to go back down the driveway to leave. So it takes a while, and literally it's a few steps from my room to the front door to look out, right? So I thought I heard someone pull up. I go, leave my room, open the door, look outside. There's not a car. It's dark, so there's no headlights anywhere. I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't hear anything. So go in, shut the door. That was that. I didn't make it back to my room, which was literally a few steps away, when I heard what I thought was like a kid. Mind you, my dad's friend would always show up randomly with his two kids and just randomly stop by to visit all the time. He didn't know my dad was there. They never called each other. I don't know. I don't even know if he had a phone. So I thought it may have been him with his two kids. And I'm like, did I hear that right? So I opened the door again, prepared to be like, hey, my dad's not home. He should be back in the next couple of hours. If you want to drop by then, I can let him know you came by. I go outside. Nothing's there. But I start to hear little kids' laughter. And I'm like, what is going on? And still not thinking it's anything creepy, I thought it was my dad's friend and his kids. Still, somehow I really don't know how I thought that. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. I don't see them. So I go back in the house, shut the door, I lock it, I go back to my room. I didn't have blinds in my room. I had like these curtains that I had made myself out of something. So anyways, you can see in through my window into my bedroom. Well, I'm sitting there crafting, and I hear something weird, and it just kind of, startles me. And I'm like, what was that noise? And then someone screams and throws themselves against my bedroom window, which also, side note, is kind of high off the ground. So in order for their shoulders to reach the top of my window, they would have to be really, 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 really tall. But what was more interesting about this is I saw the whole thing. So I see this black, shadowy figure throw itself against my bedroom window. It bangs itself, makes a huge loud noise, and it's like screaming, like, oh, and like throwing itself against my bedroom window. In that moment, I see its body. I see it hit my window, and I see it almost float away. It scared me so much. I call my dad, and I'm like, hey, you guys need to come home. This is what just happened. I'm scared. It's not your friend. I heard this. I don't know what's happening. I'm by myself. I'm really, really scared. I didn't know if at the time, I was like, is this something paranormal? Which now looking back, it definitely was. But I also didn't know if I was truly worried about my safety as far as there been someone trying to like break into the home. I didn't know. Till this day, a few things have happened at that house that were really eerie. That's the biggest thing that stood out to me while living there. I don't know what it was. I don't know why it came by to say hi, I guess. I'm not sure. Now, again, I live in Northwest Georgia, so I'm not sure if there's any lore about anything involving children's laughter or smoky gray silhouettes of figures outside. I don't know, because we lived in a very wooded area. So, I'm not sure.
So I haven't posted for a while because stuff had kind of calmed down. So 2 days ago, I was here alone at night. It was probably about 8:30. And my husband had gone down to my oldest daughter's, and the two kids that are still in the house had went out with one of my sons and his wife. So I'm sitting on the porch. One of the dogs wanted back in the house, so I let him in, came back out and sat down. And I wasn't sitting here for, I don't know, a couple minutes. And of course, the three dogs inside are just, carrying on, playing, barking. And the three outside, of course, were barking at them through the front door because it's a big glass door. All of a sudden, I hear stomping, heavy, heavy stomping through the living room, straight at the dogs. All the dogs shut up. The dogs outside shut up and ran away from the door. I sat here froze because I'm home alone. So as I'm sitting here then, I hear Jack, our biggest dog in the house, run through to our room, which is right behind me, and I hear the footsteps right behind him stomping. So I'm sitting here, my heart's beating. I'm not going in the house to look. They can have whatever they want. Luckily, just like 2 minutes later, my husband pulls back in, and when he did, I heard a bedroom door slam, like as hard as it could. And it sounded like my son's, which is just off of the living room. So I made my husband check the entire house. Of course, he didn't see anybody. There was nothing out of place whatsoever. But for the rest of the night, our dogs did not bark. And these dogs bark at everything. There can be the slightest noise, and all three dogs in the house are all roaring through the house barking like, they're going to eat something up. None of them barked. They didn't make a peep. Like, the quietness of our house was so unreal. It was spooky in itself. So, yeah, stuff's starting to pick back up again. We're hearing the voices, somebody yelling your name. Of course, the footsteps, they'll walk through my daughter's room around her bed again. But this is the first time I've heard actual stomping towards the dogs to get them to shut up.
So, I've talked a lot about how I have seen ghosts for pretty much all of my life. And how the house we're living in now, taking care of my husband's, just his grandfather now, had some different things happen. And then a few nights ago, I had something else happen. So the way our bed is set up, I sleep on the inside, my husband sleeps on the outside. My side of the bed is pushed up against a wall. The foot of the bed is up against a closet, and the head, there's kind of like a chest. So the only way for me to get in or out of the bed is usually over my husband. So, of course, nobody's going to be able to get to me either. So the night that this happened, it was my husband, me, my 15-year-old daughter, and my husband's 96-year-old grandfather at home. It was very late at night. Everybody had gone to bed. I had been asleep. And I woke up just in the middle of the night. And I was laying on my side, facing my husband. And I remember thinking, don't open your eyes. Because if you do, you're never going to go back to sleep. So I'm laying there on my side with like one ear up towards the ceiling. And out of nowhere, I hear a man right in my ear. Like he was floating on top of me. And he goes, "Hey, just like that. I mean, the exact same way, the exact same tone. Hey! And it scared me so bad that I immediately sat up. And of course, there's nobody there. So I turned the light on, and I was up the rest of the night. I have no idea who it was. Not a clue.
So, of course, I've got another Appalachian scary folklore story that's been passed down for many, many years. There was a man that owned a farm, and he milked cows on this farm. It's the middle of fall, it's very foggy out, and he notices in the distance a young woman, early 20s, walking his way with a gray head covering. She comes over to him where his milk pails are, where he milks his cows, and she doesn't say a word. He says, "Honey, can I help you?" She won't respond. She just points to that pail, and he assumed, "Do you need milk?" And she nods her head yes. Didn't say a word, and she left off with him. Next night, same exact thing. And every single night on this fall nights, they were just so foggy. She comes walking again, same clothes, gray head cover. She points to the pail. He gives her milk, and she leaves. On the third night, when she comes back again, dressed the same with the same gray head covering, he suddenly is like, "All right, I'm going to follow her. What is going on? What is this?" Curiosity got the cat, so to say. So he hollers for his brother that helps him on his farm, and he's like, "Let's go. Let's see where she's going. What is going on? Does she need more help? Is something wrong with her?" So they sneak behind and follow her, which leads them to a cemetery. They watch as she goes through those cemetery gates, and she gets to a grave, and she disappears. They couldn't take the curiosity. Now, I don't exactly agree with what they did, but it's part of the story, so I'm going to tell you. They couldn't stand the curiosity, and they got shovels, and they started digging to this grave just to see if what was going on. You know, their minds were blown. They hit pine wood. They knew it was a pine box that she'd been buried in. Within this pine box, they immediately, upon opening it, see that pail that he had given her of milk. The pail was empty. He saw the woman that he'd been seeing with the gray head covering, same clothes. But in her arms, she was holding an infant. They were absolutely terrified. They closed the lid and they began to start covering it with dirt when suddenly they hear a baby start crying. They panic. They're like, "Oh my gosh." They start digging and digging and digging and trying to get this baby. They get the baby out, and somehow the baby made it. The odd thing is when they took the time, after they're being scared out of their wits, to take the time to read that headstone, she had just passed in those 3 days, the 3 days at the very beginning. So 3 days ago, she had passed. The baby somehow survived in her arms. I don't know. So it's almost like the mother came asking for help to keep her baby alive, and she did the best she could to keep her baby here and for her baby to be saved.
My trip in the Appalachian Mountains did see what looked like a very tall man standing in the tree line near the RV camp. Like, it was pretty close, which was surprising. But I went out to fix something on my RV one night. I looked, and there was definitely a person. And I stood there for like a solid 2 minutes trying to like figure out like who it was, if it was like a neighbor RV person. And he didn't move. Like, he just kept standing there watching me. And I finally got like just so uncomfortable and so freaked out that I came back in my RV, and obviously by morning he wasn't there. Whatever ghost or paranormal activity has kind of followed me throughout my life. There was one night in particular. This was the night before Thanksgiving. The animals in the house were really restless. All our cats were really restless. The dogs, we had 2 dogs. And the dogs were like barking at the ceiling in the living room. The cats were all restless and meowing and stuff. We didn't get like any sleep. It was just like the animals were so restless all night. And they were really focused on like the ceiling, especially in the living room. And we don't see anything, we don't hear anything, right? But we live in the country, so, you know, we come to the logical conclusion, maybe there's a raccoon in the attic, something setting off the animals. We try our best. Sorry, I'm like so scared about myself, and I just like heard something weird. Okay. This shit literally still scares me. That's why I don't talk about it. We go to sleep, whatever. My stepdad gets up super early, like before the sun comes up. Construction worker guy stuff. He goes out, God knows where. I don't know where he just would go out. early in the morning. I don't know where he went. Maybe with his dad or something for Thanksgiving. I really don't know. But me and my mom are up. And we're sitting at the kitchen table. My mom is facing the living room. I'm facing her. And she's talking to me. And she like, over my shoulder, right? Which of course scares the shit out of me. And I'm like, what? Because I'm not seeing anything, right? And she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And she's like horrified. And she's like looking up at the ceiling. And I'm like, what? And I like look up and I'll see it. I'm like, what? Because I'm looking like above me. And she goes, what the f-? And I was like, what? So she walks into the living room and she's like looking at the ceiling like this. And I walk into the living room and I look up at the ceiling. There are scratches all over the ceiling. They're weird scratches though. They're like, they almost look like they're etched into the paint. Now this is a fairly new coat of paint. Been up for maybe 6 months or so. The fingers, if it were fingers, it was like 4 fingers. It looked just like this. Huge. Going all the way from my bedroom to living room. Stopped at the living room, didn't go down the hall to my parents or nothing. I get like nauseous talking about this. All over the ceiling. And we were just like, what the f-? My mom called my stepdad and was like, you gotta come home. He comes home. We show him. And he was just like, first of all, he was pissed off, right? He was irritated because he had like just painted the ceiling, but he's like, what the f- is going on with this paint, blah, blah. So he's like looking, and there are areas you just like simply can't get to without, even if you had a ladder or something, right? Because my mom had a massive fish tank, right? So even if you were on a ladder, you couldn't like reach, or it was like huge, like 100-gallon fish tank or something, right? Areas above like the big flat screen TVs that were the flat screens back in the days where like the of it was like this wide, like places you could not get to on the ceiling. And they were not there before. I mean, there was no way you would have like not noticed this before. And he's like touching it and he's like, it feels like it's burned into the paint. And we're like, what caused it? So he goes up there. He's got giant hands, by the way. My stepdad is a huge guy. They were like this big compared to his fingers, right? He's taking tools. He's doing everything he can to recreate this. And he spends a couple hours. And at the end of the couple hours, he's just like, we need to leave. We need to go now. He was working on a house in another part of town that eventually we were going to move to. And he was like, we need to go. We packed up and left that day. We abruptly moved that day. So I don't like talking about this stuff because in my experience, sometimes when I do, weird things will start happening. So it had been so many years, all right? That's like 15 years ago. More than, 20 years ago. So when I was talking to, I freaked myself out. When I was talking to Laura about it, I told her, I don't like talking about it because of that stuff. I'm on the phone with my stepdad today, right? Now, mind you, he doesn't know I was talking about this last night with Laura. And I'm telling him, like, Lady Gaga commented on one of my videos, and he goes, who's there with you? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, who's there with you? I was like, no one, why? And he's like, who's that guy talking? I'm like, I'm here completely alone. What do you mean? He's like, there's a man talking, like, just as loud as you right now. And I was like, I don't hear anything. And then he said it stopped. He's like, maybe it's like another car driving by, radio or something. I don't know. And so I'm on the phone with my friend Marina earlier, and I'm noticing all the cabinets are open. But Jackie, my cat, likes to open all the cabinets. I'll just show you. And of course, there's like no freaking light in this room yet. Oh God. Okay. All right. So I come in. All right. So this was actually just closed a minute ago. But this, again, Jackie could do this. And I'm like this stuff, right? I'm like, Jackie couldn't do that. And it's closed now, but it was open. So I'm talking to Marina, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know how she would have gotten there, right? And then I notice this. And I spin the camera around, and I'll show you a screenshot in a second. Now, this is actually the screenshot, because you can see her in the corner. She was eating. She's going to hate me for putting this picture up. But I was showing her the window. And she goes, Tara, that looks just like the old house. Because she was there. Like, she's been my best friend for my whole life. So I'm going to show you. Now, now I never noticed this before. And normally I would say it's nothing. But again, this is on the outside. Okay, this is not on the inside. And it looks like it's like scratches. Again, I'm on the second floor. You can see there's like a pool down there, right? And it's on these windows. I didn't notice any of this. And it looks exactly the same. Also, Jackie never hides. And she's like, Jackie, come out from under the bed, please. Now, what I really don't like is this above my bed. It's hard to get it to focus on it. But again, it looks like scratches in it. But you can really see, I can't get it to focus, but you can see it's on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, yeah, you can really see how it's like etched, right? Those are my greasy fingerprints. But if I try to wipe those off, it's like, could this be something that happened, I guess, during the installation process and I didn't notice until now? Yeah, maybe. It just looks so creepily the same that it's really kind of freaking me out. For documentation's sake, I don't see it on these windows at all. On these look fine. Yeah, there's nothing on these, so that's good. Those are like only other windows, so. Now again, I'm not saying it's happening again. All I'm saying is the timing is really eerie. Definitely a little creeped out. See, and I have no blinds right now, which is so creepy. Okay.
If you've ever felt watched or seen something just beyond the light, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. As always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.